On today's walk in the forest, I came across a mushroom that looked rather ordinary at first, just a dull beige. But when its flesh is cut or bruised, it reveals an almost unreal blue color, and it was really a spectacle to behold. I will tell you more about this species later, but that moment sparked an idea. The fungal world holds an entire spectrum of colors, each one with its own story, so today I'll try to follow that spectrum, finding a mushroom for every shade. The forest doesn't give up these colors easily, but step by step I found them. So come along and let's walk through this hidden palette together. This long-legged beauty of a pink bonnet mushroom is going to be my color pink of today. This is the delicate Mycena rosella, aptly named pink bonnet. A fragile little mushroom, it often grows in groups or clusters among the moss of conifer woods. Its cap is a pale whitish pink with gills edged in red, giving it a soft but unmistakable character. The genus Mycena is vast, with hundreds of species, and most are small, fragile, and easily overlooked. Yet they are everywhere in the forest, rising quietly from leaf litter and rotting wood. Pink itself is not rare among fungi. You see it in the flushed gills of several agaricus species, or in the soft tones of Deceiver scattered across the ground. But when you find it in a mushroom like this, it feels especially striking, a burst of delicacy set against the rough textures of bark, soil, and moss. In the natural world, pink often carries softer meanings. The lure of a flower to its pollinator, the fleeting glow of a dawn sky, or the idea of gentleness and vulnerability. In fungi, it doesn't warn the way red sometimes does, nor does it hide like brown or grey. It simply exists, a quiet expression of color among many. Here, the pink of this bonnet feels almost like a whisper, fragile, fleeting, yet undeniably part of the forest spectrum. Here we have the color green covered. Look at this thing. This is the Parrot Waxcap. A beautiful mushroom, I must say. This is, as I mentioned, the stunning Parrot Waxcap, Gliophorus psittacinus. At first glance, it almost looks unreal. Its slimy, translucent cap gleams in shades of green that can shift towards yellow, orange, or even scarlet as it matures. In damp weather, it shines as if freshly painted, the colors sliding into one another with a kind of liquid brightness. The stem is just as striking, thin, often curved and coated in the same slippery sheen, giving the whole mushroom a delicate, glassy appearance. Parrot waxcaps can be hard to spot sometimes as they grow in unimproved grasslands, old meadows and mossy woodland clearings, habitats that are themselves rare and under threat. That makes every encounter with them feel more precious. To find these ones here, glowing green among the muted browns of autumn, is like stumbling across a well-guarded secret. Green itself is unusual in the fungal world. Unlike plants, fungi don't rely on chlorophyll, so their pigments are more often red, yellow, brown, or even purple. True greens stand out, and the Parrot Waxcap is one of the few mushrooms that wears the colors so vividly. In nature, green is the color of renewal, of balance, of the living cycle itself, and here, among the fungi, it feels the same. The Parrot Waxcap is reminding us that fungi are not only agents of decay, but also of beauty, color, and quiet wonder. There are thousands upon thousands of brown mushrooms, but I thought I'd show you the most important one. It's this. This is the deadly webcap. The deadly webcap, Cortinarius rubellus, is a mushroom as plain as it is dangerous. Its rusty brown cap doesn't shout for attention. It blends into the leaf litter, hiding in plain sight. But within that unassuming color lies one of the deadliest poisons in the forest, orelanin, a toxin that quietly destroys the kidneys. The fruiting body itself is deceptively ordinary. The cap is dry and fibrous, often with a slight umbo in the center. Its surface, a dull uniform brown. The gills beneath start out yellowish beige but soon darken to a rusty cinnamon as the spores mature. Its stem is slender, often twisted with a brighter snakeskin-like pattern and carrying the remnants of the cortina, a fine cobweb-like veil that gives the genus its name. Nothing about its appearance suggests the danger it holds, and perhaps that is its most unsettling trait. The genus Cortinarius is immense, one of the largest in the fungal world with thousands of species. Many of them begin their lives dressed in vivid shades of violet, blue, orange or yellow, only to fade into the same familiar brown as they mature. In the end, brown is the color they all share, but the deadly webcap is different. It begins brown, it ends brown, it is always brown, as if its danger is written into the color itself. Brown is together with green the most common shade in the forest. It speaks of soil, of decay, of things returning to the earth. It is not a color that dazzles, but it is the foundation of life here, the backdrop against which all other colors stand out. The deadly webcap reminds us that even in this humble grounding shade, there can be hidden peril.
As for the yellow mushroom, I chose this one, a Ramaria. Looks kinda weird, doesn't it?
Few fungi look as otherworldly as Ramarias. This particular one is the Ramaria testaceoflava, sometimes called the darkening Ramaria, which I was able to ID properly because of its color shift slightly with age or even when handled. Less yellow at the base of the branches, shading into greyish or reddish tones, while the tips remain brighter yellow. And just beside it I found another specimen, a lot fresher with a far more vibrant glow. But this section isn't really about one species, it's about Ramarias as a whole. A strange and intricate group of fungi, branching like corals pulled from the sea and set on the forest floor. They appear in shades from ivory and lilac to deep orange and golden yellows, and in the right light, they seem to almost shine from within. The yellow species like this one grow from rich and often calciferous soil beneath both conifers and broadleaf trees. Up close, the structure feels almost mathematical, a fractal of life of decay repeating itself in miniature. Yellow is the color of light, of energy, of the moment between life and fading. In the fungal world, it's a color that seems to pulse, neither warm nor cold but somewhere in between. Among all the browns and greys of the forest, this hue feels alive, a small echo of sunlight caught on the ground. These coral fungi aren't rare, but they don't always announce themselves either. Among needles and leaves they can blend in until a light shifts or you get close. Then the yellow becomes obvious, and the cluster seems to separate itself from the forest floor.
Purple is a color you don't see too often in the fungal realm. But here's one example. This is the Amethyst Deceiver.
The Amethyst Deceiver, Laccaria amethystina, glow with a deep purple that seems too vivid for the forest floor, but the color fades quickly as it ages, turning pale lilac or even light brown, and it's from that trait it earns its name, the Deceiver. From above, it can look just like another ordinary beige mushroom. It's a common species in both coniferous and broadleaf forests, often appearing in small groups among leaf litter. The gills are widely spaced and the stem, when freshly picked, has the same amethyst tone running through it. Despite its delicate look, it's actually quite tough, one of the more durable small mushrooms out there. In Norway, this used to be considered an edible species up until recently, when it was discovered this mushroom can accumulate a lot of heavy metals, so now it is said to be one for the photographs only. Purple is actually a rare color in nature, especially among fungi. It sits somewhere between the warmth of red and the calm of blue, a color that feels balanced but also slightly unnatural, as if it doesn't quite belong, which makes it all the more striking when you see it. In the forest, where browns and greens dominate, purple feels like a quiet interruption, a reminder that not everything here follows the same muted palette. The Amethyst Deceiver may not be rare, but it never feels ordinary. Each time I find it, the color stops me.
And now we have the color blue. And I have this one. And it's not exactly blue, you might say, but you can see some blue stains here and there. But this is the Cornflower Bolete.
When I first found this mushroom, it looked rather ordinary. Pale beige, dry, almost chalky, but the moment this is handled or cut, something remarkable happens. The flesh stains a vivid blue within seconds, as if the color is rising from the inside of the mushroom itself. The reaction is so striking that it feels almost like magic, a transformation you can watch unfold right before your eyes. The cornflower bolete Gyroporus cyanescens is an uncommon find in many parts of Europe, often growing near birch or oak on sandy, well-drained soil. It's firm, solid, and surprisingly heavy for its size. Unlike other blue mushrooms that are blue from the start, this one reveals its color only through touch, a hidden pigment waiting to be exposed. But why this happens from an evolutionary point of view, no one really knows. Blue is perhaps the rarest color in the fungal world. It's a hue we often associate with distance. The sky, deep water, things just out of reach. In the forest, where warm tones dominate, blue feels foreign, like a color borrowed from another element, and yet, here it is. This was the moment that started the idea for this video, to follow color itself through the forest and to see how fungi, in their quiet way, help paint the ground beneath our feet.
For the color black, I'm gonna go a bit unconventional with this. This is one of those all black bracket mushrooms. No, strike that. This should be a black mushroom. And it's a real treat. This is the Craterellus cornucopioides, often called the horn of plenty.
This is Craterellus cornucopioides, better known as the black trumpet, horn of plenty, or the French trompette de la mort. It's one of those mushrooms that's easy to walk past, not because it's rare, but because it blends perfectly into its surroundings. Its dark charcoal grey to black surface disappears against the forest floor, especially among fallen leaves and shadow. Up close, it's a remarkable structure, funnel-shaped, thin-walled, and hollow from tip to base. The inside surface is almost velvety. When they grow in clusters, it looks as though the ground itself has opened in small, dark flutes. One ancient myth surrounding this mushroom is that they are a portal to the underworld, and you could put your ear to it and listen to the sounds from below. But despite its appearance and some dark fairy tales, the black trumpet is an edible delicacy, prized for its aroma and flavor. But visually, it stands apart. Where most fungi brighten the forest, this one absorbs the light, a color that feels less like pigment and more like absence. Black has a way of quieting everything around it. It draws the eye inward, not outward. It doesn't compete for attention, it defines the mood. In a way, it's the pause between colors, the space where the forest seems to hold its breath, and defining brightness by its very presence.
Just like with brown and grey, there are like thousands of mushrooms that are orange. So I had to find one that is quintessentially orange. And luckily I found it. This is the orange peel fungus.
This is Aleuria aurantia, aptly named the orange peel fungus. It's a bright, cup-shaped ascomyceta that often lies on the ground like a dropped peel, with its edges wavy or splitting. It doesn't have a stem, it attaches directly to the soil. The inner surface is vividly orange and glossy, while the outside is paler and slightly fuzzy when young. In dense clusters or when crowded, its shape can become irregular, even folded. The flesh is thin and somewhat brittle, making intact collection tricky. Orange is the color of warmth, the bridge between red and yellow. In fungi, it's not that uncommon. It's a signal color often associated with visibility, vitality, or a warning. Here, this orange cup catches light the way a flame might, glowing on the forest floor. Among the muted earthy tones, it becomes a burst of brightness, hard to ignore. I chose this one not just for its vivid hue, but because of its form. The shallow cup and the way it responds to light makes it a compelling subject to photograph. In a palette of forest colors, orange like this is often a pivot, bright enough to command attention, but subtle enough to still belong to the undergrowth.
For the color red, I could go for something simple like a fly agaric or something, but instead I went for this, a more extreme red.
Some colors in the forest don't just rest on the surface, they sink in, they linger. Red is one of those, and few species embody that more than this one. Its vivid pigment has been used for centuries to dye fabrics, carrying a fragment of the forest into human hands. Earlier, in the section about brown, I mentioned that all webcaps, no matter how vivid they appear when young, eventually fade to that same earthy tone. This is Cortinarius sanguineus, the blood-red webcap, a striking example from the wild and varied genus of webcaps that I just had to include, but this one is no exception to that rule. If this mushroom, or one of its close relatives like Cortinarius semisanguineus, the surprise webcap, where only the gills carry this fantastic red, is gathered at just the right time, before that change in color begins, its pigment can be preserved and used to dye wool and cloth, a way of preserving what nature intended to vanish. The mushroom fades but the color endures, carried forward as something lasting. Red in the forest isn't a warning here, it's an impression. A trace of something brief, made permanent by those who saw its value before it was gone.
White is a color that has usually been associated with purity and grace, but it can be deceptive too. Just look at this one. This is the all-white destroying angel.
White has always carried a strange kind of power. In nature, it's the color of purity and innocence, of beginnings, but here it means something entirely different. This is Amanita virosa, the destroying angel, a name that feels both poetic and fitting, as well as a warning. You don't trifle with a destroying angel, she bears that name for a reason. At times the destroying angel can appear flawless, tall, pale, almost regal in its stillness, but more often it doesn't. The cap is uneven, the whale hangs in tatters. The cap is white, the gills are white, the stem is white, and even the egg sac she grows from is white. It stands there like an old white witch, worn and crooked, yet holding a quiet and malicious authority. But inside that weary form lies one of the deadliest toxins in the fungal world. A single mouthful is enough to end a life. Slowly, almost deliberately so. This deception is part of its nature, and that's what makes it so haunting. White has always been the color of peace and purity, and perhaps that's why this one unsettles so deeply. It wears that purity like a mask, and using it as a disguise.
I was more or less done with the video. I'm almost home. See? Here's my house. And just outside my house, I found another color. So I will add turquoise as a color as well. Because look at this beauty.
Turquoise is a very strange color to find in the fungal realm. It feels out of place, too bright and too artificial, as if it belongs to something painted rather than grown. This is Stropharia aeruginosa, the verdigris agaric. Its cap glistens with a metallic sheen when fresh, shifting between green, blue, and even hints of gold, depending on the light. It's one of those mushrooms that looks wet even when it isn't, coated in a thin, gelatinous layer that catches every glimmer that reaches the forest floor. This species isn't rare, but it's easy to walk past unless you're paying attention. The turquoise fades quickly with age, turning dull and beige, another fleeting marvel of the fungal world you need to find at its prime before entropy fades it. It grows on rich soil, often in the company of moss and fallen leaves, as if it's trying to echo the colors of both the living and the decaying. Among all the hues I've followed through this forest, this one feels the most unreal. The color of oxidized copper, of shallow tropical waters, of something that looks almost out of place, yet it belongs here as much as anything else. After seeing all these colors, I am reminded that the forest doesn't really follow any rulebook. The same soil can give rise to every shade, from bright coral yellows to deep bruised blues. Some colors fade within hours, others last for days, but none of them are meant to stay. They appear, change, and vanish, just like the season itself. What I've shown here is only a glimpse, one brief moment in a much larger cycle. Next week the forest might look completely different, or maybe much the same, but that's part of why I keep coming back. Not to find something new every time, but to keep noticing what's already here. All of these colorful finds and a few that didn't make it into the video are up on my Instagram if you'd like a closer look. And yes, I am aware that I didn't include the color grey. Call it an oversight, but I felt it wouldn't add much and the video was getting long enough already. And if you stayed this far, I thank you, and I hope you'll join me again next time for another walk among the quiet corners of the forest. Until then, welcome back to Fungi of the North.